The night was cold and silent, the kind of night where even the wind sounded tired. Ethan drove down the lonely road with only the headlights guiding his way. He had just finished another long shift at the factory, his hands sore, his eyes heavy. All he wanted was to go home, hold his little daughter Lila, and forget how hard life had become. Rain began to fall, tapping softly on the windshield. The world outside turned blurry and gray. Ethan sighed, thinking about how much he missed his wife, who had passed away 2 years ago. Since then, he had raised Lila alone, working late nights, barely sleeping. Yet he never complained because Lila was his whole world, his reason to keep going. As he turned the corner near the forest road, something strange caught his eye. A soft blue light flickered between the trees, faint but steady. At first he thought it was lightning, but the light didn't fade. It pulsed slowly like a heartbeat. Glowing from deep within the woods, Ethan slowed the truck, curiosity and fear mixing in his chest. He rolled down his window and listened. There was no sound, no crickets, no wind, just silence and that strange light. Something inside him whispered to drive away, but another voice told him to check. So he parked by the side of the road, grabbed his flashlight and stepped out into the rain. The forest smelled of wet soil and pine. Ethan's boots sank slightly into the mud as he followed the light. His heart beat faster with each step. He thought maybe it was a drone or a crashed plane. Maybe someone needed help. As he got closer, he saw something under an old broken bridge. A small shape curled up. Shaking, the blue light came from it, flickering through the cracks of a torn silver cloth. Ethan froze, his breath caught in his throat. The figure was not human. It had thin gray-blue skin, small hands, and large eyes that shimmered like liquid metal. It looked terrified, weak, and cold. When Ethan stepped closer, the creature flinched and tried to crawl away. Its voice came out broken and trembling. "No hurt. Please, no hurt." Ethan's heart softened instantly. He knelt down slowly, showing his empty hands. "It's okay," he whispered. "I won't hurt you." The creature looked at him, its chest rising and falling rapidly. Its body had strange marks, glowing veins that pulsed faintly under its skin. It looked injured, as if it had fallen from the sky. Ethan didn't understand what it was, but he knew one thing. It needed help, and he couldn't just walk away. He took off his jacket and gently wrapped the small being in it. The creature trembled but didn't resist. It was light, almost weightless. Like holding a child, Ethan carried it to his truck. Looking around nervously to make sure no one saw, he placed it gently in the back seat, covering it with a blanket. As he started the engine, his phone suddenly flashed and went black. The radio turned to static, then silent. A strange humming filled the air, low and distant. Ethan looked through the foggy windshield and saw a small black drone flying above the trees. Its red light scanned the road for something moving slowly toward him. Panic hit him. He turned off his headlights and waited. The drone hovered for a moment, then shot away into the sky. Ethan exhaled and whispered, "What did I just get myself into?" He drove home as fast as he could. Every mile felt longer than the last. The rain grew heavier, the thunder louder. He glanced at the back seat. The alien was still there, eyes half open, breathing weakly. When he reached his small house at the edge of town, everything was dark. He carried the creature inside quietly. Lila was asleep on the couch, her small hand holding her stuffed bear. Ethan smiled softly, trying not to wake her. He laid the alien on a blanket in the basement near the heater. It looked peaceful now, its breathing slower. Ethan knelt beside it and whispered, "I don't know who you are, but you're safe here, okay?" The creature's eyes fluttered open for a moment, glowing faintly blue. Then it whispered something Ethan didn't understand, a soft sound that felt like a thank you. Ethan stood up, rubbing his face, his mind spinning. He didn't know if he had just saved a life or invited danger into his home. Outside, thunder rolled across the sky. A flash of light passed his window. A drone scanning the area again. Ethan froze, heart pounding. He turned off the basement light and whispered to himself, "Whatever you are, we'll figure this out tomorrow." But deep in the night, the alien's body glowed softly, and for a second, the whole room filled with warm blue light, the start of something far bigger than Ethan could ever imagine. Morning sunlight spilled softly through the small kitchen window. Ethan poured coffee into a chipped mug, his hands still shaking from last night's discovery. The memory of the glowing creature in his basement replayed again and again in his mind. He kept asking himself, what if it's dangerous? What if someone's already looking for it? But when he went downstairs, all those thoughts faded. The little alien was sitting up now, wrapped in a blanket, eyes half open, looking around curiously. Its silver blue skin shimmered gently in the morning light. It looked weak but calm, like a child lost in a strange world. Ethan crouched beside it and spoke softly. "You're safe, okay? No one's gonna hurt you." The creature blinked slowly and whispered something in broken English. "Safe. Here." Ethan nodded, surprised it could speak at all. "Yeah, here." Then the alien looked around, touching the floor, the heater, the blanket. Everything seemed new and fascinating to it, like it was seeing the world for the first time. Upstairs, small footsteps echoed. Lila's sleepy voice called out, "Daddy, who are you talking to?" Ethan froze, panic flashing in his eyes. He turned and ran upstairs before she could come down. Lila stood by the door, hair messy, holding her teddy bear, blinking curiously. Ethan forced a smile. "Just talking to myself, sweetheart." But Lila was smart, too smart for her age. She looked at him for a long second and then whispered, "There's someone here, isn't there?" Ethan hesitated, then sighed. "You have to promise to keep a secret, okay?" She nodded quickly, her eyes wide with excitement. He led her down the stairs slowly, heart racing. When she saw the alien, her mouth fell open, but not from fear, from wonder. "Whoa," she whispered, stepping closer. The alien tilted its head, watching her carefully. For a moment there was silence. Then Lila smiled and waved. "Hi, I'm Lila." The alien blinked, then raised its thin hand, copying her. "Hi, Lila." Ethan couldn't believe it. His daughter wasn't afraid at all. Instead, she looked like she had just found a new friend. Throughout the day, Lila stayed with the alien, who she named Kale. She brought him water, crayons, and even her favorite picture books. Kale watched every color, every picture with wide, glowing eyes. When Lila drew a sun, Kale touched the yellow crayon and said, "Home, light." Ethan noticed how fast Kale was learning, his voice clearer, his eyes brighter. It was as if his body was healing, feeding on warmth and kindness. But the world outside wasn't as kind that evening as Ethan watched TV. The news interrupted with breaking coverage. An unidentified object was seen crashing in the nearby forest, the reporter said. "Authorities have closed the area for investigation." Ethan's heart skipped a beat. He turned off the TV immediately, fear crawling up his spine. He looked at Kale, who was now resting quietly, unaware of the danger. Later that night, strange things began happening in the house. The lights flickered for a few seconds. The radio in the kitchen turned on by itself, whispering strange static sounds. Ethan grabbed his phone. It showed no signal, no internet, nothing. Then he noticed the faint hum again, the same sound he heard from the drone. Something was searching, scanning, moving closer. He went down to the basement and whispered to Kale, "We need to be careful, okay?" Kyle looked up with fear in his glowing eyes. He placed his small hand on his chest and said, "They find me." Ethan felt a chill run through him. "Who? Who's coming?" Kale looked toward the ceiling as if sensing something far away and whispered, "Hunters." Ethan didn't sleep that night. He sat by the basement door with a baseball bat, listening to every creak, every sound. Lila slept peacefully upstairs, holding her teddy bear tight. Ethan promised himself he'd protect her no matter what. And now, somehow he had to protect Kale too. Just before dawn, a soft light filled the basement again. Ethan peeked in and saw Kale touching the air. Glowing symbols appeared in front of him, floating like holograms. Kale was trying to communicate. He pressed his hands together, creating a small projection, a star map. Ethan stared in awe as Kale pointed at one bright spot, whispering, "My home. Gone." Ethan felt his chest tighten. He realized Kale wasn't just lost, he was alone, maybe the last of his kind. Ethan placed a hand on his shoulder and said, "You're not alone anymore, buddy." Kale looked at him and nodded slowly. A faint smile crossed his face. The first one Ethan had seen, but outside, a low rumble echoed through the night. Lights flickered across the forest again, scanning beams searching the ground. Kale's eyes widened, his body trembling. He whispered, "They come." Ethan rushed to the window, seeing dark shapes moving through the trees. Black vehicles, no lights, no sound, and only purpose. He looked down at Kale, his voice steady but urgent. "Then we run." And in that moment, the quiet single dad who once feared the world became the protector of something far beyond it. As thunder rolled again, Ethan grabbed his keys, his daughter and the alien child, and together they vanished into the night, unknowingly beginning a journey that would change the fate of two worlds. The night air was cold and heavy, carrying the sound of engines from far away. Ethan stood by the window, watching the dark forest behind his house. There were faint lights moving between the trees, steady, silent, searching. His heart pounded. He knew they weren't ordinary people. They were hunting for Kale, and they were close downstairs. Kale sat quietly on the couch, his silver skin dim, his breathing shallow. Lila clung to her teddy bear, whispering, "Daddy." "They'll find him." Ethan knelt beside her and brushed her hair gently. "Not if we leave right now," he said softly. He turned to Kale. "Can you walk?" Kale nodded weakly, his voice trembling. "Yes." "I try." Ethan grabbed a small backpack, a few clothes, some food, his flashlight, and Lila's favorite drawing book. He knew he couldn't take much, but he needed to keep them alive. The clock on the wall ticked loudly, every second stretching into fear. Outside, the headlights of black vehicles flickered through the trees. They were closing in. He helped Kale into the truck, covering him with a blanket in the back seat. Lila climbed in beside him, holding his hand tightly. "Don't worry," she whispered. "We'll keep you safe." Ethan started the engine, praying it wouldn't make too much noise. The truck rolled slowly out of the driveway, tires crunching softly on wet gravel. The road ahead was dark. Swallowed by fog, rain began again, tapping softly on the roof. Ethan kept his eyes on the rearview mirror. Lights appeared behind them, faint but steady. Someone was following. He pressed harder on the gas, the old truck groaning as it picked up speed. Kale looked up, fear flickering in his silver eyes. "They find us," he whispered. "They follow." "Always." Ethan's jaw tightened. "Not tonight," he said. He turned sharply onto an old dirt road that led into the deep forest. Branches scraped the sides of the truck as they went deeper. The forest swallowed them whole, dark and endless. After an hour of driving, Ethan stopped near an abandoned barn. The roof was half gone, the wood damp and cracked. "This will do," he whispered, helping Kale out. They went inside, using Ethan's flashlight to see. Dust floated in the air like mist. Lila sat Kale down on a blanket and handed him a bottle of water. He took it carefully, whispering, "Thank you." "Small one." Lila smiled shyly. "You can call me Lila." For a moment, the world outside felt far away. Kale's eyes glowed faintly again, healing energy flowing through his body. But the moment didn't last. A loud crack echoed through the forest, a branch snapping. Then voices. Ethan peeked through a broken window. Dark figures were moving between the trees with flashlights. "Soldiers," he whispered. "They found us." He turned to Kale. "Can you do anything?" "Can you hide us?" Kale shook his head slowly. "No. Too weak." Ethan's mind raced. He couldn't fight them, not with a child and a wounded alien, but he had to try something. He took a deep breath and whispered, "Stay here. Don't make a sound." He slipped outside quietly. Crouching behind an old tractor, two soldiers walked past, scanning the ground with strange devices. Their helmets had glowing red lenses. Ethan could hear their radios crackle softly. Energy trace detected. "The target is near." His pulse quickened. He needed to draw them away. He picked up a rock and threw it far into the woods. The soldiers turned instantly and followed the sound. Ethan used that moment to rush back into the barn. He whispered, "We're leaving now." Kale stood up, his strength fading but his will strong. Lila held Ethan's hand tightly. They ran out the back door, heading toward the old service road. Just as they reached the truck, a sudden flash lit the sky. An electromagnetic pulse burst across the forest. The truck engine sputtered and died. The air buzzed with static, the radio screaming with noise. Ethan tried again, turning the key, but nothing worked. Kale's body began to glow faintly blue, reacting to the pulse. He gasped in pain. Clutching his chest, Ethan grabbed him. "Kale! Stay with me!" Kale's voice was faint. "They stop all machines." Ethan looked back. Black figures were emerging from the fog, weapons raised. Lila screamed, and Ethan shielded her. "Run!" he shouted. They sprinted through the forest, branches whipping their faces behind them. Beams of light cut through the dark like knives. Shots echoed. Not bullets, but energy blasts that burned the trees. Kale stumbled, his light flickering weaker and weaker. Ethan picked him up, refusing to stop. They ran until they reached a small river, its water glowing faintly under the moon. Ethan waded through, holding Kale and Lila close. The cold water bit his skin, but he didn't care. They reached the other side, breathless, soaked, trembling. Ethan looked up at the hill beyond the trees. "If we can reach that ridge, we'll be safe," he said. Kale nodded weakly. "Go. I follow." But Ethan could see the fear in his eyes. Kale knew this chase was far from over. As dawn began to break, they hid inside an old drainage tunnel. Lila leaned against Ethan's shoulder. Exhausted, Kale sat beside them, glowing softly in the dim light. He looked at Ethan and whispered, "You help me, why?" Ethan stared into the darkness and said quietly, "Because once, someone helped me when no one else did." Outside, the sound of drones filled the sky again. The hunt wasn't over. It was only beginning. The sun rose weakly over the forest. Golden light touched the wet leaves, but inside the old drainage tunnel, everything was cold and silent. Ethan hadn't slept all night. He sat near the tunnel's entrance, watching for movement. His hands were trembling from exhaustion. His clothes soaked with mud and fear. Lila slept with her head on his lap. Clutching her teddy bear beside them, Kale sat quietly, his faint blue glow fading with every hour. He was weak, breathing slow, his eyes half closed. Ethan could tell he was in pain. He wanted to help but didn't know how. Every second that passed, Kale seemed closer to fading away. "Ethan," Kale whispered softly. His voice almost gone, Ethan leaned closer. "I'm here." Kale touched his chest, the glowing marks on his skin flickering weakly. "My energy gone," he said. "No more light." Ethan looked at him helplessly. "There has to be something we can do." Kale shook his head slowly. "They coming soon." And he was right. Outside, far in the distance, the low hum of engines echoed again. The soldiers were sweeping the area, using their scanners to trace Kale's fading energy. Ethan's stomach twisted with dread. He had two choices: stay and fight or leave Kale behind to save Lila. He looked at his daughter sleeping peacefully. Unaware of the danger, she was all he had left. Every instinct in him screamed to protect her. But when he looked at Kyle, fragile, lost, scared, he saw something familiar. The same look Lila had the day her mother died. The same pain of someone who had lost everything. Ethan's heart clenched. He couldn't abandon Kale, not after all they had been through. He took a deep breath and said, "We'll move again, but first, I need to get you warm." He found some dry sticks and tried to light a small fire near the tunnel's edge. It smoked, sputtered, then caught flame. Kale watched with fascination, his eyes reflecting the orange glow. For the first time, a faint smile appeared on his face. He whispered, "Fire, like your son." Ethan nodded. "Yeah, something like that." But the peace didn't last long. The rumble of engines grew louder. Then came the sharp sound of boots on gravel. Voices echoed through the trees. The soldiers had found the tunnel. Ethan's heart raced. He quickly shook Lila awake. "Sweetheart, we have to go now." She blinked, confused and scared. "Daddy?" "Quiet," he whispered. "Stay behind me." Kale struggled to stand, his legs trembling. He placed a hand on Ethan's shoulder. "I go." Ethan looked at him. "What do you mean?" Kale's voice was calm, almost peaceful. "They want me, not you. Not her." Ethan's jaw tightened. "No way, I'm not letting them take you." Kale's eyes glowed faintly. "If they take me, you live?" Ethan stared at him, torn between two impossible choices. He could run and save his daughter, or stay and fight for a dying alien who wasn't even from his world. He closed his eyes, took a deep breath, and said, "We're not leaving you." The next moment, a flash of red light cut through the tunnel. Energy beams struck the walls, filling the air with smoke and dust. Lila screamed. Ethan shielded her. Soldiers shouted, "Target confirmed, move in!" Kale stepped forward, raising his hand weakly. His body glowed brighter than before, his voice echoing, "Stop, please." The soldiers aimed their weapons, ignoring his plea. And then, a sudden pulse burst from Kale's chest. A wave of blue light exploded outward. It wasn't an attack, it was energy made of pure emotion. It rippled through the air, knocking the soldiers unconscious. The fire in the tunnel flickered out, and silence filled the space again. Ethan looked at Kale in shock. The alien was trembling, his body dimming. "What did you do?" Ethan whispered. Kale smiled weakly. "Save you." Then he collapsed, his light fading completely. Ethan rushed to him, shaking his shoulders. "Cale, stay with me!" But Cale didn't respond. Lila cried softly, holding Cale's hand. Her tears fell on his skin, and then something incredible happened. The drops began to glow. Cale's body shimmered faintly again. The light spread slowly, healing cracks along his arms. Ethan stared in disbelief. "It's your touch," he whispered to Lila. "You're helping him heal." She looked up, her eyes wide. "How?" Ethan didn't know, but he didn't care. For the first time, there was hope. He carried Cale in his arms and whispered, "You're gonna be okay, buddy. Outside." Smoke still lingered in the air, but the soldiers were down. Ethan led Lila through the trees toward an old barn. He'd seen earlier, every step was heavy, but his heart felt lighter than before. He had made his choice. He had chosen kindness over fear, compassion over survival, and deep inside, something in the universe seemed to stir, as if the stars themselves had witnessed his decision. The father, the daughter, and the alien walked deeper into the dawn, unaware that their act of courage would soon spark something far greater than any of them could imagine. The world outside was quiet again. The smoke had cleared, the soldiers were gone, and only the wind whispered through the trees. Ethan stood at the doorway of the old barn, staring at the rising sun. He hadn't seen a sunrise like this in years. Calm, gentle, almost peaceful. For a moment, it felt like everything might finally be okay. Inside, Lila sat beside Kyle, who was lying on a pile of blankets. His silver-blue skin flickered faintly with light. Each breath came slowly, but he was alive. Lila held his hand, whispering softly, "You're safe now, Kyle. We're here." Ethan watched them, feeling something stir deep inside him. Hope, fragile but real. He walked over and checked the strange wounds on Cale's chest. They were closing on their own, glowing like fireflies beneath the skin. Ethan had seen many things in his life. Pain, loss, war. But nothing like this, he whispered. "You're healing, aren't you?" Cale opened his eyes slowly, the silver glow returning. "Yes. Your world helps me," he said weakly. "Your kindness. Energy." Ethan didn't understand how that was possible, but he didn't question it. He just nodded and smiled. "Then we'll keep you safe until you're strong again." Cale looked around the barn, eyes landing on a small metal box lying near his torn suit. He reached out shakily. "There. My message." Ethan picked it up, turning it over in his hands. It was small, silver, with glowing lines etched across its surface. He pressed one of the symbols, and suddenly the air shimmered. A soft hum filled the barn, and a hologram appeared in front of them. It showed a planet, blue and green like Earth, but cracked and dim. Storms raged across its surface, oceans dried into dust, cities fallen into silence. Cale's voice trembled as he looked at it. "My home. Dying," Lila gasped. "It's your planet?" Cale nodded slowly. "We called it Illyria. It was beautiful once." The hologram shifted, showing other beings. Tall, thin, glowing like Kyle. They were standing around a huge crystal structure pulsing with light. Then the scene turned dark. Explosions filled the sky, and the crystal shattered. Kyle's voice cracked as he whispered, "We tried to save it, but the core broke. Our sky fell." Ethan's throat tightened. He realized Cale wasn't just a lost traveler. He was a survivor, the last of his kind, carrying the memory of a broken world. The hologram continued, showing a message in symbols that flickered like light patterns. Cale explained, "This beacon sends signal across stars, looking for help." Ethan frowned. "But it crashed here." Kyle nodded. "Yes, storm hit my ship. I fall. Alone." Silence filled the barn. Lila sat quietly, her eyes full of tears. Then she whispered, "So you came here to find someone kind?" Kyle looked at her and smiled faintly. "I find you." Those words struck Ethan's heart like lightning. For a long moment he couldn't speak. He had once felt like kindness was useless, the world too cold for good people. But now, sitting beside an alien child who had crossed galaxies, he began to see differently. Suddenly the hologram flickered again, showing strange signals, flashes of light and sound. Kale's eyes widened. They hear me? My people? They hear the signal. Ethan looked around, nervous. Wait, are they coming here? Kale nodded slowly. They come. Not to fight. To thank. But then the device sparked, its glow fading. Kale gasped in pain and clutched his chest. His body flickered like a candle in the wind. Ethan rushed to his side. Kyle, what's happening? Kale whispered. Energy low. Need connection. What kind of connection? Ethan asked. Kyle looked at him, then at Lila. Heart, kindness, emotion. Lila reached out again, holding Kyle's hand. Her small fingers glowed faintly, the same light spreading across his skin. The barn filled with a warm golden hue. Ethan could feel it too, a pulse of warmth deep in his chest. It wasn't magic. It was something beyond science. Something pure. Kale's breathing steadied. He whispered, You help me live. Your kindness fix my light. Ethan smiled, his eyes wet. Guess we're your family now, huh? Kale looked between him and Lila. Yes. Family. For the first time, Kyle stood up fully. The marks on his body glowed brighter. He reached toward the hologram and pressed his hand against the image of Illyria. The projection shifted again. A beam of light shot from the device straight into the sky. Outside, the clouds parted, revealing a column of light piercing the heavens. Lila gasped, Daddy, what is that? Kyle smiled faintly. Hope. But far above the clouds, satellites and scanners caught the sudden energy burst. Every government alarmed, every radar lit red. Unknown object detected, unknown signal source. Ethan looked at the sky, his stomach twisting. What have we done? He whispered. Kale turned to him calmly. You didn't call danger. You called peace. His words were gentle, yet powerful. He walked to the open barn door, staring at the glowing sky. Now, they know humans can care, he said softly. And that changes everything. The morning wind blew through the barn, warm and full of light. Ethan looked at his daughter. Then at Kyle. He didn't know what the future held. But for the first time in a long time, he believed in something again. That kindness could travel farther than fear, farther than stars, and as the golden beam continued to shine across the heavens, somewhere far away, 1,000 light years from Earth, a dying world stirred, its people looking up, seeing the signal, and whispering one word, hope. The morning sky had changed. What began as a soft beam of light was now a column of gold reaching the heavens. It pulsed like a heartbeat, sending waves of warmth across the clouds. Ethan stood outside the barn, staring upward, his breath caught in awe and fear. The light wasn't fading. It was growing stronger. Lila ran to his side, her eyes wide. Daddy, it's beautiful, she whispered. Ethan nodded slowly. Yeah, but it's also a signal. He glanced at Kale, who stood near the barn door, his body glowing brighter than ever. Kale's voice was calm, almost peaceful. They hear me now. Far above, unseen to the human eye, satellites and radar stations began to scream with alerts. Every country picked up the same signal. Unknown origin, unknown purpose. Jets were scrambled. Scientists argued. Governments panicked. No one could explain what was happening. All they knew was that something massive was approaching Earth. Ethan turned to Kale, worry etched on his face. Are your people coming here? Kale nodded slowly. Yes. They come to find me. But what if they think we're the enemy? Ethan asked. Kale looked at him, his silver eyes soft and glowing. Then I show them your kindness. Hours passed. The signal continued to shine from the small device in the barn, and then the world answered. A deep hum filled the air, making the ground tremble. The clouds above twisted into spirals of gold and silver. Lila gasped, pointing at the sky. "Daddy, look!" From beyond the clouds, enormous shapes began to appear. Not like human ships. They glowed with light, smooth and curved, moving with grace. Dozens of them descending silently, Kale's eyes filled with tears of light. "My people," he whispered. Ethan stepped back, shielding Lila as wind whipped through the fields. The air shimmered as the largest ship hovered above them, glowing like a sunrise. Meanwhile, chaos spread across the world. Military jets surrounded the area, circling the golden beam. Commanders shouted through radios, "Unknown crafts detected. Hold positions." News networks broadcasted live. Millions watched as the sky over the small town turned into light. But Ethan wasn't thinking about the world. He was thinking about what came next. Kale stepped forward, his body shining brighter than ever. "I must speak to them," he said. Ethan reached out. "Wait. You can't go out there. They might shoot." Kale turned and smiled faintly. "If they shoot kindness, then they are blind." He walked out of the barn and stood beneath the beam, arms raised toward the sky. Lila clung to her father's hand, tears in her eyes. "Daddy, will they hurt him?" she whispered. Ethan shook his head slowly. "I don't know, baby. I hope not." A light descended from the ship, touching the ground in front of Kale. It wasn't a weapon. It was a voice, a sound made of harmony. Ethan couldn't understand the words, but Kale could. He spoke softly, his tone trembling with emotion. He told them about Earth, about kindness, about the man and child who saved him. Above, the ship glowed brighter, responding with waves of light. The sound grew louder, echoing across the sky like music. And then, something incredible happened. A holographic projection appeared above them, visible to the entire town. It showed Kale's memories. Ethan finding him in the rain, Lila holding his hand, the small acts of love that saved his life. People around the world watched in silence. For the first time, humanity saw itself through alien eyes, not as destroyers but as healers. Back in the sky, the alien ships lowered slowly. Their light bathed the ground in warmth. Kale turned toward Ethan and said softly, "They understand now. They believe." Ethan smiled weakly. "Then maybe they'll leave us in peace." Kale shook his head. "No, Ethan, they will do more than that." Suddenly, beams of golden light spread across the earth, touching oceans, forests, and cities. Everywhere the light touched, plants grew greener, the air clearer. It was as if the planet itself was being healed. Kale looked up and whispered, "They share what is left of Illyria, to fix what humans broke." Tears welled in Ethan's eyes as he watched flowers bloom from the cracked soil near his feet. He had never seen anything so pure, so alive. Lila laughed, spinning in the light, her hair glowing like sunlight. "Daddy, it's so pretty," she cried. Ethan smiled and pulled her close. "Yeah, sweetheart. It's a miracle, but far in the distance." Jets still hovered, weapons armed. Through their radios came a chilling order. "Target the source of the beam now," missiles launched. Cutting through the sky toward the barn, Ethan's heart dropped. "No," he shouted. Kale raised his arms, his entire body turning to blinding gold. The missiles froze midair, surrounded by a wave of energy, then slowly disintegrated into dust. The light spread again, gentler this time. No one could fire another shot. Every weapon powered down. Every machine silent. Kale turned to Ethan, his voice soft. "They will not harm again." Ethan could barely speak. "What did you do?" Kale smiled faintly, showed them peace. The sky glowed for miles. It was no longer a world divided. Humans stood in their cities, soldiers in their bases, children in their homes, all staring at the same golden light for the first time in history. The world was silent. Kale looked up at the ships, his glow fading softly. "They are waiting," he said, "for your world to answer." Ethan looked at him confused. "Answer how?" Kale placed his hand over his heart and said, "With kindness," and as the beam faded into the sky, leaving a trail of light across the clouds. The message of the alien and the human father spread farther than radio. Farther than words, it spread through hearts. The signal was no longer just a light. It had become a promise. The golden light faded slowly from the sky. For a moment, Earth stood still. No sirens, no gunfire, no shouting, and only silence and awe. Every eye looked upward, watching the alien ships hover above the clouds, glowing like a second sunrise. It was as if the universe itself had paused to listen. Ethan stood beside the barn, his clothes torn, his hands trembling. Lila clung to his arm, her face glowing in the last touch of the beam. And Kale, the small alien who had once fallen weak and afraid under the rain, now stood tall, his body shining softly like a star in human shape. He looked peaceful, calm, yet tired. The power within him flickered like a candle ready to fade. Ethan stepped closer, worry filling his voice. "Kale, are you okay?" Kale smiled faintly. "Yes, I'm home now." He looked up at the sky, where the great ship opened its center, releasing a soft spiral of light. From that light descended a smaller pod. Glowing gold and silver, it touched the ground without a sound, and the air shimmered gently around it. The door opened and 3 figures stepped out. They looked like Kyle, tall, graceful, glowing, but their light was stronger, purer. They moved like waves of energy shaped into beings. Lila gasped, hiding behind her father. Ethan held her close, his heart pounding. Kale stepped forward weakly, whispering something in his language. The taller alien replied, its voice like music. Kale turned to Ethan and said softly, "They came for me." "But also for you," Ethan frowned. "For me?" Kale nodded. "Your kindness saved more than me. It saved hope." The alien leader stepped closer, his light dimming slightly to show respect. When he spoke, his voice echoed gently in Ethan's mind. "Human, your heart changed the message we received." Ethan blinked, confused. "What do you mean?" The alien gestured toward the sky. "Our world was dying, our people losing faith. But your compassion created something new. A bridge," Kale smiled weakly. "Ethan, your kindness reached the stars." Ethan didn't know what to say. He had never thought of himself as anyone special, just a tired man trying to raise his daughter. But now, standing before creatures from another world, he realized something. Even the smallest act of mercy could echo across galaxies. The alien leader held out his hand, and a sphere of light appeared between them. It shimmered like a living sun. "This is the heart of Illyria," he said, "our healing core. What remains of our world." He extended it toward Ethan. "We give it to you, to heal your world as you healed ours." Ethan hesitated. His eyes wide, Lila whispered, "Daddy, take it." Ethan reached out slowly, and the moment his fingers touched the light, warmth flooded through him. He saw visions, forests regrowing, rivers shining, people smiling again. It wasn't just light, it was life itself. Kale stepped forward, his glow fading softly. "This is my gift to your world." Ethan's throat tightened. "You're leaving, aren't you?" Kale nodded. "I must go, but a part of me stays." He turned to Lila and smiled. "You have given me family. I will never forget." From his hand, a small crystal appeared, a glowing softly blue. He placed it in her palm. "When you feel lonely, hold this. It will shine with your heart." Lila hugged him tightly, tears falling down her cheeks. "Will I see you again?" she whispered. Kale touched her forehead gently. "One day." When stars sing again, the wind stirred. Carrying the soft hum of the ships above, Kale looked at Ethan. "Thank you for saving more than just one life," Ethan's voice cracked. "You saved us too, Kale." Kale smiled one last time, then turned toward the pod. As he stepped inside, his body became pure light, merging with the glow of the ship. The golden vessels began to rise slowly, their light spreading warmth across the horizon. Everywhere they passed, the earth changed. Gray fields turned green. Dry rivers began to flow. People around the world watched in tears and wonder. Humanity had been given a second chance. As the last ship disappeared into the sky, the golden beam faded completely. Only silence remained, calm and deep. Ethan held Lila close, both watching the stars. Lila whispered, "And Daddy, do you think they'll remember us?" Ethan smiled softly. "I think they already have." Days passed, and the world began to heal. Plants grew faster, diseases faded. The air felt cleaner. People spoke not of fear, but of light. The light that changed everything. Scientists tried to explain it. Governments tried to claim it, but Ethan knew the truth. It wasn't science or power, and it was kindness. At night, he often sat on the porch with Lila, Watching the stars, sometimes one of them would flicker a little brighter, and Lila would smile, holding the crystal close. "That's Kale," she would whisper. "He's saying good night," Ethan would smile, his heart full. "Yeah. Good night, buddy." And as the stars shimmered across the dark sky, a faint golden ripple spread among them, a message carried through the void, soft and eternal, that even in the coldest corners of the universe, a single act of human kindness could spark an interstellar miracle.